Thank you. Hey, afternoon. Ready for football here? Yeah. We definitely are. It's great to, be preparing, for a game now, really being a game week. We're all excited for that. The staff, the players, we've had a long preseason, and, it's time to focus on the game that's upcoming. So, looking forward to the preparations on that. TCU, really good program. When Coach Francione came in and then turned over to Coach Patterson, they really elevated that program with, tremendous success like they had back in the, back in the 30s with, Davey O'Brien and Sammy Baugh and Dutch Meyer. And then, of course, being in the championship game and Coach Dykes, when he took over, being in the national championship game, it's really a strong program. It's had a lot of success in the last 2 decades, and they're impressive to watch. All we saw last year, really an explosive offensive team, a defensive team that's very tough and aggressive. Some good players on both sides of the ball, and a very competitive kicking game group as well. So this will be one of the better special teams units that we'll see during the year, especially from a coverage standpoint. So, a lot to work on, a lot to get ready for, but excited for the process to start, and we'll just take it day by day here. But definitely looking forward to getting out there on the field and working against ourselves, but really starting to prepare to work against another opponent, which this will be the first major time we've really done that this year. Yeah.
So, in the NFL, you had a few games to kind of get a feel for your team going into an opener. What kind of feel do you have for this club not having the advantage of seeing them against anybody else?
Well, the opening day is always opening day. I don't care where it is. And if you look at the NFL in the preseason games, I'd say the average playing time for the veteran players was around 10%. So not very many snaps. We've obviously had 0 snaps. So, we'll see what happens there. But for us, it's just a process. It's preparation, it's practice, it's rest, recovery, and build on yesterday and do it again. And so that's where we're at now. We're very specifically geared towards TCU, but each day is its own day of preparation, and there's really no looking back. We have things to do in the succeeding days, so we need to make the most out every day, and we'll see what happens Monday night.
If I can ask a quick follow-up. I know coaches are generally not comfortable with things, but how comfortable are you with what you've learned about the group over the last month?
Yeah, well, again, we learn more every day, and we'll learn more each game. So, we're definitely, gaining on the process, and we're growing, but it's far, far from perfect, both as a coaching staff, the players, and our overall work together. Like, we'll get better as we spend more time together.
Right in the center, here, front row. Rob Baxley with Daily Observer. How do you balance the continued evaluation of your club and the film from your guys' practices, and now going into game week with preparing and watching all the TCU stuff and preparing for week 1?
Yeah, it's pretty much all about preparing for TCU. We spent a lot of time working on what we want to do and building a base for the season. And now we'll kind of pick and choose the things that we feel like will be best to use against TCU. Once we get into the game, I'm sure we'll find some things that we'll want to continue to use, other things that we'll probably say, what they're doing is really not conducive towards this type of strategy, and we'll move on to something else. That's kind of what opening day is seeing how things match up once you actually get in the game.
Right next to it, Coach.
Brandon Martin, Athletic. I know you mentioned you guys are preparing for TCU. Moving on to that, is there still room to sort of oscillate and evaluate guys, or do you feel pretty comfortable with who you have set to fill in the various roles?
Yeah, 100%. I think, when I look back at my time in the NFL, that month of September, those first 4 weeks, were still kind of getting a feel for, how things were going to work out with your team, how quickly some of the younger players developed. and maybe what the chemistry is between certain players that play together as they get more time. And so we'll see how all that goes. Certainly there's some specific game planning that's involved. So what we play against one team this week might be different than what we do next week schematically. But putting all that aside, yeah, I mean, we'll see how players develop and how they play. And the players who play against TCU have earned that play time, and the players that will have less play time will have an opportunity to take advantage of the play time they get, whether it be in practice or in a game, and change their status.
Right next to him, Coach.
Yeah, Jeremiah Hallway with Inside Carolina. You mentioned obviously TCU having an explosive offense, everything like that. When you looked at them on film, of course they bring back Hoover and everything like that. What particularly stood out to you about their offense and the way that they move?
The number of explosive plays they get is impressive offensively. They can throw the ball down the field, go routes, post routes, seams, things like that. They also can throw the ball on some intermediate type throws like slants and quick in cuts, things like that. And then they have plays behind the line of scrimmage, screens and hitches and so forth. They make a lot of yardage on with the ball when the receivers get the ball in their hands. They're very good after the catch. Now some of those guys are gone, but they also brought in some explosive players that we've seen. So we'll see how that goes. But it's a good catch and run team. If you let them throw it in front, you've got to do a good job of tackling, and they do a good job throwing the ball over the top, and they also have a good intermediate game. So they really make you defend, all the blades of grass on the field, the sideline to sideline, from the line of scrimmage to, 50 yards down the field. So you've got a lot to defend, and they do a good job of attacking all of it. And where you're light, that's where they want to throw, and where you're heavy, they go somewhere else. So they're a tough offense to match up against. Coach Pryles, Coach Dykes do a good job of putting stress on the defense, and this is one of those games where defensively, like everybody will have to really do a good job with their responsibility. You can't cover a receiver and stop the run. You can't, cover a short zone and still cover the middle zone. Like, you've got to do your job, and everybody else has to do theirs. And we have to play good team defense, and we have to tackle well.
On the left, Coach, front row. Adam.
Adam Smith, Inside Carolina, Bill. With Gio Lopez, you guys have had him now, I guess, for 3 months, and the process of getting him up to speed with the playbook, running the offense, just how would you evaluate how that has gone from, I guess, August 2nd when you got on the field for the first time till now? And do you feel comfortable with him, in the whole playbook, I guess?
Well, we don't really have a whole playbook. I mean, we do, but we don't, because we wouldn't do everything against everybody. We have certain things that we do against certain teams and the way they play, and maybe not so much on something else. So we would fine-tune that based on the game. But, yeah, Gio's made a ton of progress. We've evaluated things through training camp. And, as now we get ready for TCU, he'll be our starting quarterback. So we'll give him the majority of the reps in practice and make sure that we get him, as much preparation as possible. But everybody needs to be ready to go. But I feel very comfortable with him and what he's doing. But he'll get better as we go forward, because we have a lot of practices in front of us and a lot of games in front of us, and we'll all learn a lot from those. So, I think he's ready, but I think he'll be, like everybody, more ready as we go forward.
On the right here, second row.
In speaking to some folks with the Rams Club, they say that you've been very involved with some, fundraising events they've had somewhere across the country. I know you've been in Nantucket. What have those conversations with fans as part of those visits been like? And are there any conversations that stick out to you, especially being somebody that appreciates the history of music football?
Well, you kind of got me off guard. I thought it was any of TCU questions. But no, it's fine. So I've done most of those with Michael, but not all. But those have been, honestly, they've all been great experiences. Connecting with mostly UNC alumni, but not exclusively. There are a lot of other UNC football and UNC backers at various events that we've connected with, and the support's been tremendous. They've been very supportive, encouraging, and in a lot of cases want to become more involved in the program, more supportive in the program. They've asked questions about what we're doing. Certainly there's a new landscape in college football that we've talked about with general manager, head coach kind of model. So I've got a lot of questions about that. A lot of questions about NIL and how that's going to work and so forth. Not that we've been able to answer all those questions because there's still some unknowns here, particularly up until June or whatever it was when the judge handed down the final paperwork on it. But a lot of general questions like that, and I'd say Michael and I have talked a lot about bringing the tradition back to North Carolina and doing some things that historically were very important in the school's football history that we want to recognize and highlight. So Nantucket, New York a couple times, Chicago, Atlanta, Charlotte, Raleigh. So yeah, we've kind of and then a few other one-offs besides those. So, but it's been great. Really, every one of them has been a good experience to meet new people, and see and hear about their involvement and their questions. And a couple here in Chapel Hill too. So, and we'll have several more as we have home games here, but also travel to places like Cal and on the West Coast, things like that, where we can connect with some of the people that haven't weren't in those areas. Been good.
Mike, what up, North Carolina Sports Network? You've had 8 months now to work with Freddie Kitchens here in Chapel Hill. What does it mean to you to have a former NFL head coach and a veteran on this campus and in this program to be a part of your coaching staff, and what does he bring that's unique to this offense?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel very fortunate to have the staff that we have. We have a really a good staff. They're very experienced, both in college and from professional football. So it's kind of a good mix there. Freddie's had some of both, as you've mentioned. Some of us have been more on the pro side, some on more college side, and some have that that kind of mix like like Freddie does. But yeah, he's got a lot of experience and has coached a lot of good players. He's he brings a toughness to the offense, and so I think that's a good thing. And he and Coach Friend played together at Alabama, so there's a great relationship between the offensive line and the coordinator. So that's always an important part of the offense, to have that mesh like we had at New England with Josh McDaniels and Dante Scarnecchia, and that's an important dynamic offensively. So. Freddie's been great to work with, and I've really enjoyed being with him. But also, his expertise from the things that he's brought from Cleveland, or previously that from when he was at Arizona with the Cardinals for a decade, plus some of the experiences in college, whether it be at South Carolina or here in the last couple of years, especially here because he is familiar with the program and some of the things that have happened here the last couple of years that help us either move faster or move slower with some of the things that we're trying to do. Thank you.
We'll go 2 in the back and then finish up in the front.
Yeah, Brian Murphy with WRL. Coach, how much impact have you had on, or decisions have you made about the game day atmosphere? What happens inside the stadium? What happens in the pregame? Any of that stuff? Are you involved at all? What you want to see happening around this game?
I want to see us score points and turn the ball over and block kicks, and so we'll see if we can get that into the game day manual. I've been made aware of some of the things that are going on here. I mean, that's really not my field of expertise, but we are involved with it, obviously to some degree with the team, coming out and where we are and what we do and so forth. So, but that's primarily been handled by Rick and Steve to a degree. I'm sure other people in their departments and so forth. So, but yeah, they've talked to us about here's some of the things we do, and Michael and I have met with them and kind of for the most part, this is great. And then everybody's throwing out some suggestions. What about this? What about that? And we kind of kick those around. But I think that the plan that, Rick has is very exciting. I think that they've invested a lot in it, both in time and energy and facilities. And so it sounds like a great game day fan experience that, I think will be well received. And hopefully we can put a good product on the field and, make it the nights and type of games that people want to come to the stadium to see.
Do you talk to them about the team walk and all that stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be hard to do a team walk without the team. So yeah, we've been involved. Yeah, so we've talked about that and how all that's gonna, the timing on it and so forth. And yeah, so yeah, things that we're involved in like that. That's a good example. Things that we're involved in. Things that we're not involved in, the halftime show and other, things that go on outside the stadium, don't really apply to us. That's not something that's, central to what we're doing. But things around the start of the game or in game and so forth that are happening that affect us, then yeah, we've talked about those, sure.
Right next to him.
Yeah, I thought we just did it. All right. Sorry. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'd use variables line, but I won't do that. Yeah, again, I've been through a lot of opening days, and every one is the same in that there's some things you kind of feel good about. There's some other questions that you have, and then as things unfold, you find out how good you feel about the things you feel good about and how good you feel about the things that you were worried about. And it's not always the same. I think when you go out and practice against yourself, or even in the NFL with the preseason games, it's done at a low level. All right, that's what it is. Well, when you get ready to play a team, nothing's held back. They game plan you. They try to expose your weaknesses. They try to attack you where they feel like they can cause you problems with in your scheme or in your personnel, whatever it happens to be. And then next week it's more of the same because now you've put a game on tape, and now they can see the next level of game planning and scheming. And then the same thing the third week. By the time you get to that third or fourth week, you're exposed one way or another, right? I mean, either you're pretty good at these things, or this is a weakness that we're going to have to find some way to minimize, whether that's a personnel move or whether it's a scheme move or whatever. And you're seeing the same thing from those other teams. So I think those first 3 or 4 weeks are really important in the development and evaluation of your team, because what it looks like on the practice field and what it looks like against another team who plays differently than you do, which certainly TCU does, our evaluation of how we play against TCU and how we play against ourselves in practice could be very different, or not. We just don't know. So, but those first 3 or 4 games, once teams get a chance to see you on film, and you get a chance to see your own team and how they perform and where you feel like you can be effective in attacking your opponent, probably are different from week 1 to week 4.
Last one right here in front.
No way, Scott. Sorry, 24/7. The national attention on this team, it just seems unavoidable for your players. How have you and your staff sort of navigated that leading into a game with so much national attention on Monday?
Yeah, just control what we can control. We can control our preparation, our attitude, and our work ethic going into the game, and then how hard we compete in our communication. So however many people are here or not here, or however many hours they talk about it on a network show or don't talk about it, is really not anything in our control. It's irrelevant to us. We're trying to focus on what we can control and what helps us win and helps us prepare for the game. And so the rest of it is, with all due respect, just noise for us. We have to focus on our job and let you guys do your job.